How does a disempowering view of self affect a person's life?
Well, disempowering view of self impacts our life in this way, much like what I talked about. I mean, I always felt like I had something to prove. I mean, can you imagine living life with something to prove? Everybody that you meet, I've got to prove myself. I've got to show you that I'm smart. I got to show you that I'm bright. I got to show you that I'm good enough. I got to show you in terms of that. I mean, imagine living in that kind of hell.
And isn't that just one example of a disempowering view?
Yes.
Aren't there many varieties?
Oh, yeah. There's many varieties that fall along in certain categories. But no matter what, can you imagine people living in that kind of hell as far as that's concerned? And what does that do? That impacts relationships. That impacts the way that I am in relationships with my children. It impacts the way that I'm in a relationship in terms of spouse. Listen, I know what it's like to have a bad marriage. I know what it's like to have a divorce. And it impacts every aspect of our lives because we're operating from a perspective of a false sense of who we are. This is the way that I've got to be because I'm a black man. This is the way I've got to be because I'm a white woman. This is the way I got to be because I'm a Latino man, whatever the situation is. This is the way society says that I have to respond. This is the way society says that I have to be. This is what the culture is doing. And so people, we have allowed ourselves to create these little hells for ourselves. I believe that's one of the reasons of all the societal ills that we have within our society as well. Because of the standpoint, if you don't know who you are, firstly, let me say, if you don't know God, then secondly, if you don't know who you are and have a healthy understanding of who you are, then why would we dare think that everything, be it from family to society, would be any different? Because we have no clue of who we are, and we have no clue of the greatness that is within us. And so, it becomes whatever then society says the role by which we should play.
And it kind of tends to go to the lowest common denominator, right?
Absolutely.
The standard of what is the purpose of life kind of tends to go to the lowest common denominator, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And it's amazing because, again, one of the things that during this time frame that 5 years ago when I was really going through, I started looking at some of the narratives in terms of what does the Bible really say about who I am. And it's amazing because the Bible is such an empowering book. It tells us about all of these wonderful things. We've been Genesis, we've been created and made in His likeness and in His image. God created both male and female. He created both them. No male dominance over female. He created both them. And then and the psalmist declares we've been fearfully, that word fearful in Hebrew, reverently, and wonderfully made by God. Wow, God made us with reverence. It goes on, and on. Deuteronomy says God has made us, and the covenant that He made with the children of Israel, which is He made us to be the head and not the tail, to be above only and not beneath. Man, when I started really looking at those narratives and grabbing those things that before years I heard, but yet I never really looked at them and said, that's who I am. That opened up a far more powerful way of being than the former aspects of me not knowing again who I am. And when I became informed by those types of narratives within Scripture.
Okay, thank you so much. What's involved in effectively embracing our true spiritual nature?
Well, necessarily in embracing our true spiritual nature is that, first of all, that we've got to understand that who we are is not who we are. And that's what I tell people all the time. Who you think you are is not who you are. The reality of the fact is that we are spiritual beings having a spiritual experience. When we, first of all, embrace that there is more to me and that this is who I am, be it my education, my curriculum vitae, my resume, and if I don't have all the letters, that which I've made because I work on this job, I do this profession, I live in this neighborhood, I do this and I do that. The reality of the fact is this, that all of those things are really great and fine, but that's not who you are. That's just simply the ego dressed up. Because who we truly are is spirit. Aristotle, the great father of Western philosophy, he says that man is made up of mind, body, and spirit. And the core of our being, the core of our existence, is spiritual. So I've got to, first of all, recognize that I am a spiritual being. I've got to embrace that notion and fact. Then, as we move to how we are able to demonstrate that and to be that, is then we've got to be able to then, I like to say, get informed by the Scriptures. Society will throw all kind of things at life, throws all kind of things at us.
Yes.
And it's to make us forget who we truly are.
Uh-huh.
And so it's easy to be, to rely upon my strength as a corporate VP. It's easy to rely upon my strength as, well, hey, I am a, big star, and, I have all these resources available, so forth and so on. But yet, we have to be able to say, that's the ego. Let me deny that. And what then the next stage is not only being informed by the Scriptures, is then we've got to continue to reprogram ourselves. That word is sometimes very controversial when I say that, but then we've got to, we've been programmed all of our lives to be what we are.
Okay.
To affirm the ego, to affirm that which we think that we are.
The materialistic side.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So now we have to be affirmed in terms of this new awakening of who we are as a spiritual being. Mm-hmm. Of course, informed by the Scriptures. Well, then how do we do that? I tell people all the time, you've got to saturate yourself in the teachings, in everything that you can possibly get your hands on to be able to build up your level of faith and consciousness to get to the level where you're walking in that effortlessly.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. How can a person develop an empowering view of self?
When we begin to walk in terms of truly understanding who we are, and this is what I had in my life, I realized that I could not hang around the same people that I hung around with. And
that's difficult to face, right?
That is very difficult to face. People that you love, people that you care about. Now, I did not just say, oh, get out of here, get out of my life, because now I understand who I am. I simply said, you know what, I've got to develop some parameters. This is now my understanding of God. This is now who I am. And this is the way that I am choosing to live my life. Now, what I did with them was that I enlisted them in the possibility for their life from the standpoint of sharing what I share with them, that could be a possibility for them to also develop a greater relationship with God, and also for them to be able to have a greater understanding of themselves.
And I'm sure people responded in different ways, obviously.
Obviously. But yet, I still have them as friends, but what I did was that this is the parameter that now I'm setting.
Yeah.
And we'll be fine, we'll be happy. I'll still come out to the cookouts. I'll still be able to, to hang out on the veranda and have the iced tea. However, I am serious about that, because a lot of times people become very negative and skeptical of the things that you're doing in your life, as if they have an opinion for your life. But I believe a lot of times people are skeptical and opinionated about the things that you're doing positively in their life, is because when you begin to grow in developing your life, as you begin to have a greater understanding of yourself, it puts a lot of pressure on them.
It's a challenge for people to have to face the limitations of their own life, and how they're living their own life.
Absolutely. And it becomes a mirror for them, like, oh God, before I could ignore that, or misery loves company, so we could all commiserate on all of our issues. But now someone's breaking away from the herd. It's like, Plato's allegory of the cave, where, we're all chained in the back of the cave, looking at life through these shadows that are being flashed on the wall, and thinking that that's what's really life, what life's about. But man, someone has the nerve to break away, to break those shackles, and to be able to view life in a different way. That's scary for many people, and many people can't handle that. Yeah. That's why then people are attacked.
Very clear. Thank you.